So today I'm back and I'm going to talk about organizational culture. Now, what is organizational culture? Organizational culture is basically us talking about the values, norms, and practices that an organization has written down, and sometimes these are unwritten, and people follow these and form part of the work culture or tradition that basically governs how work is done in a particular office, right? Or organization, department, or division. So in terms of what I'm talking about today is that we need to understand that for us to have winning teams, we also must have a winning culture. So my question is, what culture has your company adopted in order for it to be effective, in order for it to be winning, to actually even achieve the strategy that is set before it? As a department, what culture have you had? When I say what culture are you following, so there are core values that a company has, and those core values will probably be, we are ethical, we are resilient, integrity, stuff like that. So in terms of culture, have we developed a culture around the core values? Because those are things that are inherent to the organization, things that propel us to work for this organization. So when you talk about culture, I'll pick up one thing, which is norms. What is the norm in a particular department? I've heard about cultures in finance, for instance, that the finance department just takes long to process payments. They develop a culture that is not even part of the core values of the organization, because if we're going to talk about ethics, then they're very unethical because they're hampering the progression of the organization. Again, if we're going to talk about, say, marketing brings, reports late. So the question is, what culture has your company adopted, and what culture is your company adopting? Culture is your company furthering, and what culture is your company even cultivating? So to help you understand how culture works, that you must be deliberate about talking about it, you must be deliberate about implementing it, you must be deliberate about reviewing it. Because half the time people will be talking about an organization that is so far from the culture that they've presented out to us. So you go to a bank, for instance, and they tell you will be served in 8 minutes, and yet the culture does not work towards that strategy. I think you've heard the term that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if the culture is not well aligned with the strategy, you'll find that this two actually being in conflict, and you will find that strategy is actually being hampered. So what culture have you cultivated? What culture have you adopted? What culture are you nurturing in your organization for you to actually move along with your strategy, for you to actually have teams that are winning, for you to have divisions that are winning, to have an organization that is winning? So culture is very important. Are your emails being responded on time, and what are we doing about emails that are not being responded on time? What are we doing about staff that are coming to work late? Is that part of the culture? So culture is very important in an organization, and so when we work with organizations, we try to get them to understand that culture is paramount. Culture is part and parcel of your strategy formulation, is part of your strategy implementation and the success of your strategy. So exactly what culture have you developed in your organization, and what culture are you cultivating? Because sometimes it also falls on leadership, because leadership then, if the leader is detached in implementing and furthering the culture of an organization that is actually written down, then the unwritten culture then is what is enhanced and is what is practiced, and you find people do whatever they want to do, and so we don't end up having winning teams. So it is important, it is imperative that organizations adopt cultures, organizations talk about cultures, organizations sit down and deliberate and dissect and understand what culture they're trying to implement in the organization, what culture they're trying to cultivate in the organization for them to have winning teams. So a good question is, when we come to your organization, what culture will we find? Will we find the sit back, wait and see who's going to do this culture, or we're going to find the guys, here we are a team, let's do this and let's win together? Or we're going to find a culture where it wasn't me, it was the other person? What culture are we building in organizations? And so it's very important that we must discuss these matters and see what culture we're having. It's a whole big topic, but these are just nuggets for you to pick from. The success of any strategy is hinged on the culture in which it is implemented. So if the culture does not support the strategy, then the strategy is likely to fail. Are people buying into the organization? Are people buying into the ideas of the organization? Culture dictates the everyday behavior and decision-making process of every employee. So you see how culture then promotes or demotes the implementation of strategy. So how your staff behave, how they interact, how they relate with each other, how they understand how an organization is supposed to move forward. will impede on how strategy then is implemented or is achieved. So what culture are you adopting in your organization? How are the employees interacting? How are they working together? Is a culture that of communication, that culture of accountability, is a culture of integrity, is a culture of ethics? Are people talking? Are people understanding each other? So we are here to help you to set a culture, a tone in which you all agree to what culture then governs your organization so that you work and create winning teams. Have a good day.